So I would say cross-functional buy-in is the most important thing. You don't want to go create materials if they're not going to be used, right? Maybe they'll be able to be used later on, but really you don't want to be creating in a vacuum. So the messaging that you use, you want to make sure that it's on point, that it resonates, and that it is something that sales would actually say, that it's something that they really believe and that they understand and that they will utilize.
Greetings, folks. Welcome to another episode of this mini podcast series. Today, we are covering two exciting and important topics, namely sales takeout plays and how to use AI in competitive intelligence. Joining us today is Beth Winters, Principal Product Marketing Manager at Dynatrace, a PMM and competitive intelligence leader with more than 7 years of experience. She is also an MBA graduate and recovering attorney who is passionate about customer experience, user-centered design, data management, and leader technology. Welcome, Beth. Looking forward to our conversation today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to speaking with you more about competitive intelligence, sales takeout plays, and AI and CI.
Exciting stuff. Let's get started then. So the first question is around the sales takeout plays. Could you walk us through the process that you follow, on creating a sales takeout play, and also add an example or two from your experience as to how you went about it?
Sure. So, when you're in a very competitive space in a competitive industry, a lot of the time the sales plays are focused on stealing market share from a particular competitor. And so we've had in my past role and in my current role, you can have a sales takeout play that is kind of on a rolling basis. You're always have your eye on this one competitor, or you can take advantage of market moments. Maybe there's a merger or acquisition of a competitor that creates fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So I've worked on a campaign like that, or there's a news article that sheds a particular light, or something like that you want to take advantage of. Maybe they have an event coming up and you want to take away some attention from them for that event. So different context wherein you can have a sales takeout play. I'm working in a IT observability space. That's a very crowded market, but there's also some really big players. So I've, in my role, mostly been focused on those larger players and taking away market share from those. And don't want to say like any particular names, but if you're familiar with that space, you can kind of check out the Gartner Magic Quadrant and see who is there, who are the main players, who may be getting the most attention in the news when you search for that keyword, or talk to analysts. Those are the ones that we would be focused on.
Cool. Thanks a ton for that. Like the way you threw in the examples of a merger and acquisition, and also an event coming and then taking away attention.
Yeah, and then the process would be, like sometimes we would get a directive from a executive or from the board that they're really concerned about this competitor, but in other instances, I've noticed a market moment, and I've said we should really position ourselves to take advantage of this. I think there's opportunities for a blog and some new ads that we could run that would really position us well. Maybe some Reddit posts, some ads on there. Really trying to take advantage of that fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So usually with you want to listen to your stakeholders within the organization, but you should also be proactive in recommendations for when you notice that there's a good opportunity for a takeout.
Right. Thanks for that. Now I'm going to add. My next question is actually riding on what you've explained now, but you've told about what we can or should be doing. What are some of the don'ts when it comes to building a sales takeout play? Like, are there any that we need to keep in mind?
Well, I would say don't wait too long. You want to make sure that you're taking advantage of that news pretty quickly, right? So if you can attack it before others in the space, then you can be better positioned, and you've also then enabled sales to respond when you get questions about that particular opportunity. So I think it's important to move fast. At the same time, not to be super reactive. Make sure that it is a really good opportunity, that you've talked to your stakeholders, that you have cross-functional buy-in, that sales has bandwidth to handle a takeout play. Sometimes they'll just say, we have so many other sales plays, right? There's all these different kinds of sales plays based on a new product or a vertical, and we can't do another enablement session. If it is super important and you have that executive buy-in, you can usually push it through and have them deprioritize other initiatives. But it's really important to, make sure that you get that buy-in. So, again, don't be super reactive, but also try to move fast if you can.
A balanced approach, but then don't be slow. And interestingly, you brought in the point of the executive buy-in. So that's where my next question is around, like, as professionals, we work across multiple functions and they use our work. So how important is cross-functional buy-in? I mean, which functions do you think, or which leaders' buy-ins are important? And then for any particular sales play or takeout play, and also how do you go about getting the alignment? Because let's say you noticed a market moment, and how do you build?
So I would say cross-functional buy-in is the most important thing. You don't want to go create materials if they're not going to be used, right? Maybe they'll be able to be used later on, but really you don't want to be creating in a vacuum. So the messaging that you use, you want to make sure that it's on point, that it resonates, and that it is something that sales would actually say, that it's something that they really believe and that they understand and that they will utilize. If you make a slide deck and they don't like using slide decks, then that was kind of a waste of time. Maybe better to focus on scripts or email cadences. So it's really important to know what sales prefers in terms of their funnel at different stages. When can they work that in? You want to enable the right people. So the SDRs or BDRs, might have a lighter touch and they have to have some sort of quick snippets that they can say. AEs and sales engineers, those would need a little bit more, details, right? More meat. And so you want to enable the people who need the information in the right way at the right time. CSMs might want this information as well to prevent churn and reduce churn. They would say, oh, well, you're going to turn to that person. Did you realize that they were just acquired by this other company, and we're really not sure what that means for the product roadmap or for, their ability to commit to the things that were previously on their roadmap. They just acquired this other company. What does that mean? Have you noticed any changes in, your support? Has your pricing gone up? If not now, it might go up really soon, because previously when that company acquired another one, they increased licenses immediately within the first 3 months. So maybe you're not up for renewal now, but you will be soon, and it's a good time to evaluate another solution. So those are the types of different ways that the sales team might use the information. I also would work closely with sales enablement to make sure, they first of all, let's schedule an enablement session. Let's present the information, make sure that we have good attendance, that the assets are all available. I usually do like a FAQ. I'll do a slide deck for that presentation, and then I'll create some slides that they can use as well. I'll create some scripts that they can use, some different objection handling scripts. So those are the types of materials that they have found helpful when I've worked with them in the past. When I've worked with sales, when I've worked with sales enablement, when I've worked with CSM.
Thank you. I love this answer. I mean, it also, I think all our listeners would have found it super useful because you've covered an entire multitude of different kinds of assets and different kinds of way we can present it. And I think most importantly, give what the sales wants and what they prefer to use. If it's an email script you prefer rather than an egg, then that makes everyone's life simpler.
Yeah, and product marketing is such a cross-functional role. So that's more on the sales side or post-sales. But at the same time, you also want to enable marketing because marketing org can take advantage of that moment too with ads and with content, with blogs, with a competitive landing page. So creating the most updated materials shows that you're relevant and that you know what's going on, that you're keeping up with the market, and that your company has knows what its positioning is and how it's differentiated, how it's better, and that just helps you and your sales move the leads through the funnel quicker.
It makes a lot of sense, and I love the way that you ensure that we covered all the GTM themes and what each of them could do. Mom, I'm going to take a little sideways and ask you one question. How do you use AI in CI? Could you give us some examples that you've used? And eager to listen.
Yeah, so there are, if you have a competitive intelligence platform like Clue or Crayon, some of those have AI built in, which is great because then you can query particular sets of data. You can query, it can even pull in like with integrations, your Gong call clips or your win-loss interviews. You can upload other documents. So you can ask it questions and define which data you want it to look at. So if you just wanted to look at reviews from, verified customers from like G2 or Trust Radius, and you can say, what are the strengths and weaknesses of this competitor based on reviews? You can look at what are the strengths and weaknesses based on Gong call clips. What are they saying about this competitor? What are the top 5, reasons that people switch from competitor A to us? There's really great ways to query the data that you already have. Gong as well also has AI tools, which is really nice. You can set up trackers or you can look for competitive mentions. You can look for particular terms. You can sort by, industry or a particular sales group to get more information. So there's a lot of AI that's already built into some of these platforms. These companies have moved very fast to incorporate it. If you do have that tool and it doesn't have AI, you may not be on the latest version as well. So there may be an opportunity for you to just ask your CSM, like, hey, can I get on that version? Can I upgrade or can I get, alpha, like if this is into the beta phase, like where are you with that? So I like that. Crayon has like a great AI prompt guide that's already built in. So it kind of, does some of that for you. Another tool, AlphaSense has, which is used for like market research, has great ways to query the data. So you can tell I was evaluating different competitive tools recently. But yes, I think like that's a real game changer if you don't have any sort of competitive intelligence tool or battle card, repository, that can really speed up your competitive efforts. It has research, it pulls information, like scrapes the web, scrapes the competitors' websites, review sites, employee review sites, financials, you name it. And some of them can build, a battle card for you, basically, with that information by pre-populating it. So there's those tools that are already built in. And then you have like something like ChatGPT. So you can kind of customize queries. You can create your own GPT for competitors, which is really cool. So if you, are more savvy with AI, that's a great tool. And if your whole organization has ChatGPT, that's a really great way to go, because then you can, again, specify what type of data you'd like it to look at. You can also change the tone of voice that it creates responses in. You can, really get pretty creative there. So if you're more of a DIY person, if you are feeling really comfortable with ChatGPT and AI, build your own GPT. And, that's really a fun way also to learn how to use ChatGPT and AI better, right? And there's different types of, GPT, different types of, access for like deep research, right? Maybe you don't want to give that part to your whole organization, but you can use that as well. It is really important, again, though, to make sure that you look at what sources it's using for information. So you should build that into the query. And also, when using something like GPT, you can always ask it again, like, that's great, but can you make it better? Or can you make it shorter? Or can you make it, more, prescriptive? Or, let's narrow it down to 3 examples. If you give it a certain number, like give me 25, a list of 25 reasons why we're better. You might get more creative responses as well. So definitely play around with it. You can also ask it things like, you are a product marketing manager at XYZ company, and you have a wealth of industry experience, 10 plus years, really tell it who it is writing from the point of view of, and then say who it is writing for, who your audience is. I'm creating a sales enablement materials for BDRs or MDRs or whatever the case may be. And then, it might give you more narrow results there. So a lot of really fun ways to play around with AI, both with existing tools and with ChatGPT. So definitely recommend playing around with it.
Thanks, Beth. That was insightful, and I love the breadth of options you gave. And I'm sure folks will start playing around more with the inputs you gave. With this, we come to the end of the mini podcast episode. Thanks a ton, Beth, again. Looking forward to having you again soon in another podcast episode.
Thank you so much. I look forward to it.